of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Ed Markin, Town Council. John Dolce, Town Supervisor.
Bill Ryan, Town Attorney.
Randy Bates, Town Council.
Brian Wood, Town Council.
Victoria Craker, Town Clerk.
Some of them is us. I'm gonna swap the meeting. Do we have any audience comments, please? If not, we're going to jump right to the highway recycling report, as Jason has parental duties to take care of.
All right, good evening, everybody. You have a copy of the transfer station report. Everything continues to run smoothly. Got an enormous amount of scrap steel in the last 2 months, so that's been a good thing to offset some of the costs. But we've been having that scrap up here every other week, so it's a good thing. First order of business is I have a new hire, so I'm going to move forward with hiring. His name is Nathan Strobeck, and I'd like the board to approve the hiring of Nathan. I also have an agreement that I put in front of you just to show you what I'm going to have Nathan sign. I've gone over it with Nathan, but that basically is a way of recouping some of the costs of training Nathan. I have also in your packet, there's an agreement from Jason Wayman that comes up with some basic costs for training, CDL training. I think will work out quite well for us. If anybody has any questions with that. So in talking with Jason, his proposal is $1,500 for up to 20 hours of training and then $35 an hour or after that. However, the way he's explained it to me is he can come in and do the basic beginning training, do a little bit of behind the wheel training. Then once he signs off on it, we can do some of the training ourselves and then a lot of behind the wheel time. And then after that is completed, he can come in, drive with Nathan, and then sign off to go to the road test. So I don't foresee it going over 20 hours. I think that is probably ample amount of time to get him trained.
You think that there's any possibility of us getting somebody that would be willing to go through the schooling to become a trainer?
I haven't looked into it. I kind of like the idea of an outside entity certifying, to be honest with you.
The cost is certainly reasonable.
Which I think it costs you very much. This, and the nice part about this is Jason is highway superintendent. He knows what the job is.
Yeah, no, I guess my thing is I agree with you and I agree with Randy that the cost is reasonable, but if that doesn't pan out, then the cost is not reasonable with the other options that you looked at.
Sure.
Obviously.
So I've also been in touch with Scott Duncan and Lisa Ramundo from Albany County DPW. They have put together a training program and they are open-minded to us possibly sending some people through that as well in the future. So there are some other, they have not yet in-house trained any of their own employees. However, they have a few employees coming. They wanted to work through that for the first time, see how it goes, and then they might be open-minded to train some of our employees.
Okay.
So I think another option is I talked to operating engineers. They offer some training. They don't have a class until January. However, for the operating engineers to train, we have to be part of their training program, and there's dues associated with that. He estimated to be between 10 and 15 cents an hour per employee to be eligible for any of their training facilities. But we would have to put the entire union group into reasonable cost. However, the part I didn't like is that there would be no training class until January at the moment. So but I think this is a reasonable way to move forward. It's a good starting block, and we can always improve from there.
I'll make a motion, we hire Nathan Strobeck to probationary period with the agreement that the highway superintendent has proposed.
Second. I've also put in your packet there, there's a proposal here from Keith Gager. He asked me to forward it to the board. He lives directly across the street here, and he's opened his own business of servicing generators, and he asked for you guys to please just take a look at this proposal, and when the contract comes up, to consider him for servicing the generators.
Bill said there's no rate of pay in here. Does it have to be? I mean, it says the probationary,
So that is the trainee rate of pay,
Trainee.
is listed in the union contract.
Yeah.
As trainee position, Bill?
Okay. For the trainee rate of pay,
Correct.
yeah, we have a trainee rate of pay, operator 1 and operator 2.
And the reason that the probation period has to be extended past 6 months is because there's a obligation in the union contract that says that both parties agree that the probationary period can be extended to 1 year. However, the only way to keep him at a trainee rate of pay is if he remains in the probationary period, so we get around that.
so why don't we just add the driver trainee rate of pay in the current collective bargaining agreement?
Okay.
Can you say that one more time?
In current collective bargaining agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and then just highway report.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
made the motion to
Yeah.
Who seconded it?
hire Randy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, okay. Go ahead, Jason.
All right, for the rest of the highway report, one round of mowing has been completed. We've started our second round of mowing, where we'll be mowing back further. We have basically all of our roads prepped for our paving projects, which should happen sometime in July. We have a few more small odd ends to finish up here Monday, Tuesday, and we should be complete with that. Chip sealing will be scheduled for August. We have worked several dirt roads, and they're coming along quite nicely. We've really made a lot of progress in the last few weeks. On a state level, the state is considering a bill to allow a 5-year surface treatment protocol that is due to be signed hopefully in July. It'll help us moving forward on our CHIPS funding. Is the prevailing wage bill was upheld in court, so all contracts that go into place after July 1st with the hauling of aggregate, including asphalt to pavers, all of the drivers will have to be paid prevailing wage from now on. So that is something that we're going to see increased costs in for sure next year on our material costs. That has been upheld. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but that's the gist from my report for tonight.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
Yes, yes, we need a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the highway report.
Vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. But this, Jason Small engine repair, it was done for this year. Do we make a motion to have the,
Well, I think I can do that through my position, correct? And as long as you guys are on board with the training, I can decide, I can decide that it's within our procurement policy.
okay? Okay, Jason.
All right, you guys have a wonderful evening.
Good night.
Good night, Jason.
Okay, next up. Well, we have to table the minutes of May 23rd because Pete's not here. Pat and Brian have to abstain, so that's gonna get tabled. Modification, we have, unclassified revenue, $326. Two miscellaneous equipment, DA 22999, 326.25. We just need, I make a motion to accept this budget amendment. I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Okay. The vouchers and bills,
I'll make a motion to pay all vouchers and bills.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Correspondence. There is correspondence. reports from the library? None. The supervisor have a couple things that I just want to mention. Tim and I had gone around we spent a few hours on a Saturday, looking at unsafe building, taking pictures. And, Tim is gonna try to do like 6 of them a week. The first week, we'll do 4, 6.
Yeah, there's 4, yeah. We'll do some more tomorrow.
There's one property that I'm really fearful. It's low. Some are filled, some are rotted. I don't know how to deal with it. We called DEC. And DEC.
Yeah, we did a site visit with the DEC. There's at least 24 cars. I would estimate 60 to 70 30-yard containers of C&D and junk brought in from other places there.
With the 55-gallon drums.
They're 40 or 50-gallon drums.
What's the house look like?
Completely dilapidated. House there? It's hard to tell. It's barns.
A building that the tree fell on and
The second floor on the first floor and in the basement. And we did a site visit with the DEC, but I can fill you in on that afterwards.
so anyway, I just wanted to mention that because this is gonna stick us bad.
Well, can I offer some advice?
Sure.
That's why we have you.
I think we adopted the local law about unsafe buildings and the procedure to follow, issue the citations or start the ball rolling for the Supreme Court action by lining up engineers to do our due diligence and eventually getting in order, allowing the demolition of the house and cleanup of the yard at the cost of the homeowner. You and I have spoken about this. And in our weekly chats. And from a personal perspective, I'm astounded that DEC sort of said it's your problem. But that's okay. I think we need to have the rubber hit the road now and authorize us to go forward with this procedure. You need to send a message here.
I wanted to bring that up.
No reply?
Huh?
Nothing.
No, we'll continue that later. So I want to hear what DC has to say. So, next up is I signed a letter for Becca Hotel for the Rensselaer grant. The municipal park improvement for $19,000. Hopefully we'll get somewhere. I met with Tom Benton, the union rep, on Tuesday. He was a nice chat. It's not even riches. But basically, they're asking if we would, the contract's over in 25, and he'd like to make it over with in 24, help employ more. So I said, well, you want us to do that, it's a give and take, And I brought up situations with him where, I had called the union, where one of the employees, one of the employees had a vulgar sign on their back of their pickup, and the union did nothing. They just stepped back, so I brought that up to him, I said, well, then why should we do this, you know, so, but we need to keep our people. We need to keep our people, and I don't wanna, my opinion is, I wanna take care of them, but I wanna make sure that they take care of us. You know, it's a give and take. So that's, you guys are gonna be getting a letter soon from this guy expressing what they would like to do. And, I didn't get that letter yet. The last thing up was the bond. I spoke to the Bank of Greene County, the bond for the water district. It's a 20-year bond at 4.69%. Which comes out to like $117,000 a year. Which is $1,450 per citizen in the water district annually.
How much? $1,450 per.
Per parcel.
Per parcel per year. But
And that's for the new water supply?
the new water supply, and that does not count if we get a grant. That's if we had a foot and bill ourselves. Okay, so that's all, Jason, I working on a capital improvement plan.
Can we go back to the unsafe buildings?
Sure.
Like, I'm torn on this a little bit, and I certainly don't think that we should have properties with 40, 50 gallon drums of oil or whatever on it. I'm gonna be dead set against picking on one property when we have multiple properties in town. But I also think before we open Pandora's box, like, we gotta make sure that we can pay for it. Like, if we're gonna do cleanup, like, I'm all about, like, we gotta make a statement, but we gotta be able to pay for it. And sometimes other towns that are bigger have a bigger pocketbook to do it. You end up cleaning that up, I can even imagine what the cleanup fee would be. And it's fine to say we can put a judgment against them or whatever, but if we don't get that money back, like, how, so now we're putting the cleanup of these properties on the backs of the citizens, like, and we can't just pick on one, like, we have to do them all. I mean, we can do them one at a time, right, and get it done, and we gotta move on to the next one.
We identified about 24 of these properties.
Yeah.
That are on our list.
Right, but we can't go after one person and be like, all right, we blew our wad on that one, and we don't have enough to go after the other 23, this is not fair.
And the sad part is that this property didn't just happen. It's been like that for decades.
No, understood,
And the town ignored it for decades.
understood.
So it was never that big. So I'm afraid of this.
You
I'm
should,
afraid of this. It's probably $500,000
right,
to clean up, and, we have to get, $500,000 is for a small town, so.
right.
Then,
And could we, before we get going deep in the trenches on these, is there somebody that we can get that could, I mean, look, if you can get an engineer to come in and condemn it, we should be able to get somebody, some cleanup company to come in and be like, this is what it would. Before we start going in the trenches, Supreme Court judgments on it, and then be like, well, time out, we were just joking because we don't have enough money to pay for it. You know what I mean? I think we should have a plan if we're gonna, I agree with it, like, we gotta make a statement, but
so this guy
we're
was.
gonna go show up and beat up the big guy and then realize that the big guy's really big and then we don't wanna fight anymore. It's like,
We've gone after this guy since August of 22. He's been in court. And nothing's happened.
well, because I agree with what Bill's saying, is we have to do that process, but at some point when we go down the road, like, we have to do it. But then we also have to keep doing it, like, And if you clean up this property, then you go to the second worst one. Maybe that's not $500,000, maybe that's 200,000 to clean it up. But now you're at $750,000. And then you go up to the number 3 property that you deem, and that's 100,000. You go and get 3 or 4 properties, 100,000. Now we spent $1 million on 5 properties, and how we get that money back. I'm all for it if I can figure out, how to get the money back.
That's a dilemma. You know,
I think that we need to spend time figuring out what we're gonna do with that. I don't know if that falls in your expertise, Bill, or if there's other towns that we could look at that have had similar circumstances. I mean, I think probably the benefit of other towns is they stay on top of it, so they don't have 24 properties that they've gotta tackle all at once and then pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is at the bottom of the list, and it becomes to the front of the list when a problem arises. And your idea is a good one. I think need an engineer, correct? Not anymore. And then we could pay an engineer to go out there and assess it and bring back a report to the board that would set forth the cost that Brian addresses to demolish, to find out what's in the tanks, to get rid of them, and get rid of the construction debris. And then you can make an intelligent decision. I'm not suggesting that you go blindly down the road without having this investigated, and I think it would be foolhardy to do so. But I think retaining like an engineer, you can select who you want to go out and have an assessment done. That's probably, I don't know how much it costs, but I think that's the first step, and then you can make an intelligent decision.
Can you find somebody that can do that for us?
Yes,
And maybe, you got other connections in other places that you're working, just see, is there somebody that could come and do it? And
well, there's 2 parts that you want to do as soon as possible. It doesn't cost the town anything. One is get the engineering assessment of the structures. So that we've got a third party that says, yeah. One, it's really obvious. It's not like it might or might not be salvageable. And that's a couple $1,000 for an engineer to go there and survey the structures. And 2, you could just put it out to bid to demolition companies. They'll give you numbers for free. What it costs to take the building down. And maybe, this might be a 2-parter for trash removal. Some of this, you don't need high-end trained equipment and people. You just need somebody with a claw to throw all this stuff into containers. Maybe
You can't demolish him without a court order, unless it's well, you would still need a court order. You can't demolish and tear the structure down unless you get permission from the court to do
but
so.
the engineer report would provide that, right?
Correct.
But you could get bids so that you know who's gonna do the demolition.
Yeah, that's right. And that would be in the province of the engineer of the town to orchestrate all that. That's the way.
Tim, part of this conversation is DEC. I'd like you to tell me now, I don't wanna wait till later for
They didn't support the impact that you and I had when we were there.
and this is just one.
This is one ECO, his opinion.
I'm gonna go over his head because that's,
He gave me some exemption sheet, which that was his basis for not being interested.
who was it?
Cameline.
this is by far, all the sites we visited,
I had surveyed this from the windshield survey for the past 3 years. I just stood on the street and counted what I could and wrote it up and brought it to court. John insisted that we walk, and it was not, I wasn't that comfortable walking on some of this stuff. But it went deep, it went deeper, and it was never ending. It was just really, it's the worst thing I've ever seen in all the.
So if DC said there's not a problem, then maybe we just hire a bulldozer and dig a hole and bury it. They already said it's not a problem.
A lot of risk. Now you got a property that you may have
Not
contaminated.
being, not
Yeah.
Can we just, this goes back to one of the things we talk about every month, you know, it's like we just gotta move on.
I'm gonna continue.
Or put it to bed.
This is my goal for this year, and I'm gonna pursue the pricing from an engineer, or together to see about an engineer. It's a sin to pay somebody, an engineer, when the house is totally collapsed.
Counties
You're
have
gonna
been,
need evidence, John.
The judge is gonna want it.
You need evidence.
yeah,
How about a picture?
county,
Well, I get all that.
I'm curious if the county engineers would be willing to help us with, you know, probably not, but
That's not a bad idea.
we reach out to the county and see if their engineers could help us in at least some aspect of it. I mean,
Yeah,
like you say,
cool.
it's easy, so it's coming from an engineer to say, like, look, we brought the county in.
It's a good thought.
We'll continue.
All right,
Okay, so that's my
I'll
report.
make a motion, we accept the supervisor's report.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion carried. Excuse me, the account.
You guys get a copy of the county report for May 31st. It's pretty boring because we only got a little bit of our revenue besides taxes in, so we can't really see how we're doing. But let me see, what do we got here for highlights? Vogue income is up to $38,418. General funds got a handful of accounts over by 10 to like $200. We just gotta move some money from 1.4 account to the other 0.4 to cover that. With the only one over significantly is elections is over by 5,200, but that's the one that we've already talked about, closing polling places, so we know about that. And then the other one that's over, John kind of talked about it already, is the water district, because we had to hire CT Mal to do those engineering reports. So we're over 22,000 in one account there, the miscellaneous contractual, but that is supposed to be covered when we get the bond, right, John?
Yes.
And like I said, a pretty boring month, so that's about all I've got.
Can I make a motion to accept the accountant's report?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The attorney report.
We've been back and forth with the Attorney General on the petition for the Kuhar matter endowment, and it's been finalized. So John signed it, verified it, and I'm gonna be filing tomorrow in court. The bond for the water district. Edwin, we might want to talk about that when you give your report. The easement for Lake Minnesota's dam, John wanted me to review that. And I did. And the takeaways from that easement signed in 1993 are that the term is 40 years. We, as the town, have the obligation to repair, inspect, maintain, and operate the dam. And at the end of the term in 2033, the trustees of the grantors have the option at their sole discretion to terminate the supply of water to the water district and to dismantle the dam and any related infrastructure. So it's a good idea that we're starting on this project now with finding a new water source. which Edwin will talk about in a few minutes. That's it.
The question about the easement was that if we found an alternative water source, can we void the lease?
I will have an answer for that tomorrow. But I thought, given the, interaction and the efforts by Edwin and CT Mail, the most appropriate point was the water source. And that they have the right to terminate that.
My fear is that anything happens between now and 2035, 33, even if we're not using that water source, we're still responsible.
Well, let me look at that and then I will, get you an answer tomorrow, like I said.
Okay. And the QHAR funds, people are asking for the money, still cannot do that.
Correct.
Can you tell me when you think we can?
I would hope that there's no objection or, to this petition that we're filing and that the order would be issued in 30 days.
Yeah, so people call you,
I've had a few people call asking.
Why do we do that, so why do we do the award thing? Do we have to do that as part of it, or do we jump the gun every year?
I jump the gun.
I mean, it's fine, I mean, we can just tell people like, look, we just underestimated the time it would take, I'm not worried about that, but I wasn't sure if we did that because we had this process to get, to show we were doing it, so it appeased the Supreme Court. Or-
Well, no, with all due respect, and I certainly do not want to be offensive, and that's not my motivation. We have been going back and forth with the Attorney General's office on this matter for the last 4 or 5 months, and it is now a point in time where they don't like where we correct commas and semicolons, and that's it. I've had it.
Understood.
So I'm just filing. Yeah. And if he has a complaint, he can bring it to the court, and then I'm going to express my point of view. Okay.
I make a motion to accept the attorney's report.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Town clerk.
Town clerk for May, but it has the numbers. I do have a few things this month. I'm updating the business listing on the website, so if anybody has a business or something that they do that they want to put on our website, we've got new people in town, I will direct them to that business listing. So it's helpful for those on both sides of the fence. So please let me know if you think of anybody or know anybody. We purchased new flags for the Veterans Ring of Honor, $360. And I just the other day, just found something interesting, got an email that there is a bill before Congress that will mandate, if passed, that all American flags displayed on taxpayer-funded, and this refers to federal property, but it's interesting nevertheless. And those purchased by the federal government must be made in the USA. The legislation will ensure that federal government will no longer be allowed to purchase imported flags. Surprises me that that's even a question, but there it is. And we held a defensive driving class here, sponsored by the Albany County Sheriff's Office. We had about 13 attendees, and it was very successful. And last but not least, starting for the 2024-25 hunting license year. DEC is transitioning from the special license stock, the colored kind of plasticky paper, to plain paper licenses and tags. So, lifetime licenses and tags for the upcoming year will be printed on plain paper and mailed, with the expectation that they will be received no later than September 1st. So even for lifetime holders, you guys are all gonna get them on plain paper. They're claiming, they've experienced difficulty acquiring the stock due to supply chain issues and increased costs. So we'll have a little change to our program, I think. I hope it's not too much. But no more colored paper. It's all on plain paper, guys.
That's true, in the interim.
And then you increase costs, you pay like $70 a month, like, for a little piece of the back tag.
You'll all have to put your plain paper in a plastic baggie.
Did they do away with the back tag? Didn't they do away with the back tag regulation, which you don't have one?
I don't know.
Be weird. We all look like ghetto guys with the back tag and Ziploc baggies, tapes on our back with duct tape. Prices.
Now move we accept the town clerk report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Code enforcement.
Good evening. We took in $1,149 in building permits. The total for the department was $1,324. If you include the permit renewals, the file searches, and the recreational trailer, we got one recreational trailer permit. 4 complaints, 6 violations, 6 inspections, and a file search. We did update the violation list that you guys have on the back of your packet. And as we discussed, we certainly did some looking around a week and a half ago in a really sharp car, I gotta tell you.
What?
A really sharp car. It didn't take us long to cover the town. But it was an eye opener, you know. You wander from the street, you look at some of this stuff and say, you know, does anybody live there? Is there anybody? And you stop and take a better look. But I appreciate John your time. Thank you for that. And we'll continue to keep enumerating them, writing up the violations and taking action. That's my report.
Okay. I make a motion to accept the code enforcement, building inspector report.
Second.
All in favor? The assessor, I will read his report. For the month of May, we received a total of 2 transfers, 2 residential, 6 for estate planning, and 2 vacant parcels. We held grievance day on Tuesday, May 28th, with 1 complaint. I'd like to thank Board of Assessment Review members Brad Chase, Eric Sutton, and Scott Whitbeck for their services. Also, thanks to Linda McCormick for recording the minutes. Currently, we're working on new building permits for 2025 and updating photos for our files. That's the written report.
Move we accept the assessor's report.
Second it. All in favor? Aye. The Water Sewer Committee, please.
Good evening. I was hoping Pete was gonna be here tonight, because we were having trouble getting the hydrant replacement on the calendar, and I know he has a relationship with Andre Leroux. So I thought maybe he could, push some buttons to help us get that going, but maybe, you could contact him, or I'll contact him, so see if he can help us out. And we're already in the thick of his season, so it's gonna be particularly hard to get him on the calendar. When it comes to the dam, speaking of the dam, the consultant that's running the high hazard mitigation plan for the county has asked us, we met with them last month, and they provided us a draft of their report. And they've asked us to come back to them with some of the things that we weren't able to answer during that call. Be sure you have in your packet a copy of this that highlights the areas that we're on. In particular, on page 16, or I should say the easy part is on page 16, which includes the list of mitigation actions or proposed mitigation actions. All they want from us there is to say yay or nay, or add or delete or edit those actions.
Yeah, excuse me, I see everybody looking for that. I only made a few copies for those.
I apologize.
Brian's name was on it for some answers.
Okay,
John as the supervisor, of course, you have one. Tim has one.
okay.
So if your name wasn't on that,
You can read mine.
Project,
yeah, I didn't make a copy.
thank you. So apologies for misdirecting you. But then there are other items that, in particular, for example, Brian Wood's name is
I see that.
highlighted on a couple of these.
I'll take care of that this week.
Anna Brooks as the planning board is identified as a person we need to get a yes or a no from, and these are pretty easy answers to get. We just need to get back to them because they were in fact looking for us to comply with the answers this week, but I pushed them off because we were busy with other things this week. So if I can help, John is actually,
I'll talk to Jamie tomorrow too, because some of this stuff is, it's ridiculous that we have to work with, get stuff from the county, because they're a subcontractor of Barton and the Judas, the Highland or whatever that did this.
Right.
So it just seems unreasonable to expect us to go to the county planning board when they're working directly with the county. Like, so I will, I'll reach out to Jamie tomorrow and see what ones of those.
Jamie's,
Jamie's like,
upline
she's
of this
the
consultant.
chief,
Okay, gotcha.
whatever. her
Okay.
Policy.
Anyway, we'll work together to help move this along. The reason for doing this is because the town has never done it before, and just a reminder, a refresher, the reason we're apt to do it now is because of the dam. The High Preserve attempted to get a grant to do repairs for the dam, and because we haven't done this in previous years, they were disqualified. So they were willing to go get the grant money to actually do the upgrade, keeping the town's costs to that off the list, so to speak. So why not continue to help them and get this in place so that perhaps they can go at it in the coming years. Regarding the, and I'll get to it in a bigger way, regarding the discussion about the easement earlier. The water district improvement project could easily take 5 to 10 years to complete. So we may end up, running the course of the easement, the lake to still be in place and getting the dam repaired to another water source. So that being said, I just wanted to bring that back up and remind us that we have to work on that. So let's talk about the water district improvement project. Last month, we had a community meeting, good turnout. Town super, councilman were there, Randy and John were there. There was a lot of Q&A that got a little heated here and there, but I think it was really just because the average citizen didn't really understand what they were being presented by the engineering firm that made the presentation. Some people felt, sure, I got it, I understood exactly what was being presented, and others were less capable of seeing the light. That being said, the idea of having to make a decision was probably the biggest question that came up. And we're really in a place just to have the submission that's happening literally like today or tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow, use the best recommendation that the engineering firm has made. And that, of course, is to move to a different water source, upgrade the water filtration plant, which won't require as much of an upgrade had we stayed with the lake as the water source. So there's a lot of connected dots there, but they're and on different topics, but they're all kind of related in one way or another. Since then, we've been working hard at preparing to make this submission to the New York State Drinking Water Intended Use Plan. You're probably tired of hearing me talk about it, the IUP, as we've been referring to it. We were fortunate enough to get letters of support from Congressman Tonko, Senator Breslin, Assemblymember Fahey, and Senator Schumer. What do letters of support do for us? It helps our total package of submission to the agencies that are going to be looking at us in terms of, the presentation. That's basically what we're doing, is making a pitch. Furthermore, we worked together with the income survey company that we hired. And I want to say that it was a major effort, not just from the survey company, but from the water committee, from sustainable growth, because we had to get it done in a timely fashion. It needed to be done at the same time that this IUP submission was having or taking place. Otherwise, there would be no value in having it. That along with the letters of support is valuable for the presentation we make. So we just received the results of that income survey, and in fact, the residents of the water district do qualify for hardship. And what that means is that the granting agencies will look at us favorably, and we will score better when we apply for those grants. So that's super good news. CT Mail then finally delivered the revised final preliminary engineering report. That's the name they give it, New York State. And the revisions they made from the night that they made the presentation were all based on water committee recommendations for language changes, things of that nature, just so that we felt like we were making the best presentation we possibly could. And CT Mail has, as of today, told us that they have prepared to make the submission. We're waiting on one document from the income survey company to get to us so that they can presumably make that submission as of tomorrow, which is deadline day. So we're right up to the wire, as most people are. We hope to get it in earlier, but that's why you plan to do it earlier, because things happen to keep you from getting there. So we're going to make the deadline just fine. So I'm super excited about that, very happy about that, and it's been a long time coming. We've worked for close to a year now to get this done, and the work's not over. Because once you get, again, it's just listing a project, then our job is to go and get grant money. So apply for the grants that will help bring that number down that John talked about before when he inquired with the bank about what the cost of a bond for the total upgrade project would be. So that being said, because you brought it up, Bill, the water district account is pretty low. And we were counting on the bond to pay for the PER relatively soon, so we could get money back into the account, ultimately to pay CT now what they still erode, as well as replenish the account. So I was wondering if you could give us an update on that.
The only update is that, and Brian, correct me, payment has to come from the water district.
Right.
And if there's no money there, there can be a loan, correct?
From the general fund to the water district.
And that's what we're gonna have to do.
Rather than go to bond?
Well, you're gonna have to pay for, my idea or the concept here, as I mentioned, is to have these bills paid as they come in. And when, the final map plan and report is, issued, and we proceed with the, improvement, plan under the town law, under Article 12, then we will bond it.
And pay back.
Correct.
There's two separate projects here. There's 67,000 just to get to where we are today.
I understand that.
Okay. So money has already come out of the account to pay.
Out of whose account?
The water district account.
Okay, well, that's,
To
that,
pay for maybe the first invoice or two that came in.
that's where it should have come out.
I understand that, but we were
That brought it down. to
depending on a
nothing.
bond to pay for that so we could replenish the accounts and continue to operate without, there's no reserve in these accounts, which is another topic.
Well, basically, it's almost like a bond anticipation note, but from the general fund to you guys.
Okay.
And we'll track that separately and make sure that we know what the amount is. And for it, it'll be on the budget report every month now that we loan this much for the water. And then when you do eventually get a bond, gets their cut first.
So then, any invoices that have been paid out of the water budget get replenished in the general fund now?
We've done that, so we paid CTL last invoice $1,500. We paid that. But the water district did not have the money. So we took it from the general fund and paid that bill. And we have a spreadsheet
Okay.
of what we borrowed from the general fund for the water district.
Okay, great.
So it seems pretty simple, and tell me if I'm wrong, so I'm getting it right, is if you have these two projects that you're going to bond, those invoices, we just add up, and that will be what the bond's for. If you paid if some of the money come out, it can go back into those accounts. So we can pay back the general fund, pay back, the water district fund, but it's probably a better way of doing it, because you know exactly what your bond has to be, instead of anticipating what it has to be, getting a loan and then either having extra money or not enough, and having to go back. Have the whole idea, and then if we can big brother it and loan the money and then get it paid back, it seems like it would be to the penny, right?
But
Yeah.
that's not what we originally thought when we
Not what I
approved the
thought.
contract with
Right.
CT now. It was said at that time that we would issue a bond to pay for that. But that's what
That's
we
where
were,
I'm-
that's
that's
what
where
we
I'm at.
assumed we were doing, correct?
And I'm fine with an alternative solution as long as we can get any money that's already been paid to the engineering firm out of the water budget replenished, so that we can operate.
I see what you mean. You want to have, as if you're not doing the CTML project You're gonna have your regular budgeted stuff that we passed in November, you passed in November.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll come up with that this Tuesday when I come in.
Yeah.
We'll kind of separate it out.
So money for chemicals and
That's
stuff
perfect.
like that, you need to still have money for chemicals, so we gotta replenish that, so we can.
Well, what I'll do is, inside the water district, we'll set up a capital project sub-account for each one of these, like CT Mail and the other, who's the other company that we're paying?
We don't want it.
Okay, so we haven't picked them yet, but we'll set up two capital projects for that. So you'll see your regular budget amounts being paid and how you're doing. And then the other ones will be the ones coming in from the general fund.
So, but we do know what the contract is with CT Mail, and we should be going forward with a bond for that cost. I thought that's what we agreed to when we initiated that.
Well, the alternative that's being suggested is that the general fund can take the place of the bond for now, temporarily.
Right, but we should be going forward with the bond.
You will eventually.
We will when we go to the actual construction project, which, you know, it might take a while to get there. That's a decision that you might want to make later.
Well, I think, I think there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yes.
And Brian's right, the moving the money from the general fund to the water district is like a bond anticipation of, and the money should be transferred to pay for the costs associated with the improvement plan. But I think once the final map planning report is finished by CT Mail, when do you expect that?
We have it.
No, that's the map planner report is the next step.
That's not coming from CT Mail.
Correct, we
don't
haven't
know
we
who
have
that's
not-
coming from yet.
bid that
This-
out yet.
This is the project that we hired them to do, is get us to the PERC. Get us to the submission of the IUP, which they are completing tomorrow. So they will give us their final invoice after tomorrow.
So this is gonna go for the grant.
This
Nope.
is to get us on the listing, and then, so in October, they'll publish the intended use plan for the next year, the drinking water intended use plan, and the town of Rensselaer will now be on that list. They'll have a ranking for our project and an estimated cost. And then it'll be up to us to then decide to go out and find an engineering firm to do exactly what you're saying, the final map plan report.
And
also
also
the well
to,
testing.
to actually also now submit for actual grant funds to
Yes.
pay for that project, the construction project.
Now, I thought when I spoke to Catherine that she identified water sources for you.
She did.
And they're wells, am I correct?
That's what
No.
would have to happen.
All right, but no, excuse me, she has a groundwater source,
Right,
all right? And they had a geologist look at it,
right,
all right? And the geologist said that there's water in the earth.
right.
And the recommendation is to use that source for your residents of the water district.
Right.
Wells though. That's about $75,000 to happen between now and when we develop that final request for what is going to be done. That's a recommendation that they just gave us as we're ending this IUP listing process.
And that would be part of the design aspect, which leads to the construction project.
And you don't know what the cost is for the construction project, Jack, because the map plan report hasn't been. completed.
Well, the PER, offers an estimation of it. It's
And what is
actually a
that?
little bit more than what you,
About 1.8.
it's actually about 1.6, 1.7,
Yeah.
with all the additional things that go on.
So is the grant application going to be happening in conjunction with the development of the map plan report?
Yes, ideally, the engineers would work. The final engineering firm that's decided that we picked to do the capital construction should have a very strong community development and grant writing arm, which most of them do, so that you can get the funds for the project. Work on the grants. Yes, and they would be the drinking water grants that we were looking at this year, but we weren't ready for it yet because we were too We didn't have the parts together.
Okay, because I spoke to her
Yes.
at a different function. And obviously she was spouting about the grant writing abilities of her organization at CT Map. So, I mean, you're gonna do what you want to do, but they're available.
Yes, and they have helped us with the submission process and we,
Yeah, part of their SOW is to do the submission tomorrow. They were actually ready to do it, but that is simply to get the project recommendation into that queue, as I've been calling it, to be considered for a project to be scored by the state or the EFC. And then based on the score, we can go to these grant agencies to try and get that number down so that when we go for the big bond, it's not going to be as painful.
Okay. I get it.
That's the plan.
Then we do once the map plan report's done, we agree on the source and the construction amount, we'll do the 202 bid proceed.
Okay, rather than doing it twice, I guess.
No, you know, we do it once.
Okay, is that a long process?
No.
Okay.
3 days.
All right. Thank you for bearing with me through that. That being said, I want to bring up, we discussed last month's primary meeting of the town board, sustainable growth, invoices, contracts, and I had alluded to the fact that they have already expended all the hours on our contracts. These folks have worked with us tirelessly with their services, so we're entertaining a contract that will get us hopefully through the end of this year to about $4,050. I haven't submitted it to you or asked you for sign off on it just yet, but I just wanted to make you aware of that was coming.
What is SOW?
Statement of work, scope of work.
Huh?
It's either a statement of work or scope of work, depending on what document you've done. But it's a standard project management terminology. Completely different subject. Any other questions on the water improvement project? Well, different topic altogether. Rice Road leads from Pond Hill Road to the water filtration plant. It's a mess. Even worse when there's snow on the ground. Our water operator has a standard sedan. Not going to be able to get up there much more during the winters. So I was wondering if we could ask the town, perhaps have the highway sweeper take a look and see if he can offer some suggestions that the town might be able to help us with.
First off, we'll have to see if is it a town road?
It's not on our,
It's not a town
It's a
road.
private
it's not
road.
listed on our, actually, it says town road.
What is it?
Who's that?
Private property. The water may have an easement, but it's not a town road. It's not listed on our list of town roads.
How did it get a name?
Well, that's history, that's a history lesson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, well, I'll speak to
Is
Jason.
that a legal matter in terms of the town not being able to do anything for that?
It's not a town road, you're not authorized to spend funds.
Give it to public fund.
Say it again?
It would be a gift to public fund.
The town would have to have to do it.
But it's an easement.
Well, it depends
Okay.
on what type of.
Well, it's Forest Road, it's also listed as it's also signed as a private road.
Other than the short term stuff. This is a busy week.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No.
And that's my report. Thank you.
Michelle, make a motion to accept the water sewer committee.
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Okay, next up is current events. They're listed on the website. I believe the biggest one is the Rensselaer Fire Department, Battalion, is hosting a food drive for the Milltown Community Resource Center. Saturday, June 22nd, between 10 and 1 at QRs and 11 till the fire. And others, but it's on the website. Under old business, I put down a broadband update, but I'm not going to read that. I'm gonna give everybody copies of it. It's basically saying that Oregon County Capital District Planning Commission, New York State Broadband Office, and the two local internet service providers, that they're all moving forward toward submission of applications, so.
You know that there's they're doing something, and I can't even tell you if it's, I thought it was Margaretville Cable or TV or something. They're running fiber. There's about 5,000 feet of it in a pile over Potter Hollow right now. Fiber coming down the mountain and then going somewhere. Now, I have a suspicion that it's probably gonna come down and go toward Green County, but in any event, there's a small hamlet in our town that will again have more access to.
So last week, there was a contractor at my house, he's a contractor for Mid-Hudson Cable. And he was evaluating the poles, the electric poles, the condition, and the service. So he said that they are, Mid-Hudson is expanding and they are going, he told me the roads that he was surveying, he said he is the initial step and they follow behind him string cable. So he was working on what you wrote about it. So I thought that was good news, good to see him doing the way out. It's coming. At least there.
Excuse me. Okay, so hopefully that does come to fruition. I don't have any new business. Does anybody have new business to discuss?
I just, I said I was gonna bring it up under audience comments, but I'll bring it up now. I think that, we have to start thinking and certainly have to put some consideration come budget time into the future of local cemeteries. I think that, they're being hit with high prices of maintenance of those facilities. Understand from talking with Jason and Randy that if they are absolved, the trustee boards that govern them, that some of the maintenance falls back on the town. And just like our campus here, I think that is something that's gonna, I know Preston Hollow Cemetery, they come to me, let me know like they're struggling because they literally cannot find anybody to do the park. They put it out not the park, the cemetery. They put it out several times for bid to get somebody to mow it. Kudos to the Hamlet of Preston Hollow. They have had 2 nights where the community just showed up and mowed the cemetery. So that's good to see. And like anything, that the novelty will wear off with that eventually. And then you'll have 20 people show up and then 18 people show up and go away. And you'll have 2 people trying to mow a place for nothing. And I think that as we get approaching budget season, and even if we can't figure out a solution this one, it's something that we need to address at some point and have a plan, for what we're going to do. Nobody's arguing the importance of cemeteries in the community.
But one thing we could do, is we could, add selected cemeteries to our public bid process for the parks. We could add that on to, and at least part of the bidding process be a per diem mowing. So that we would have somebody who would do it and we would know the cost.
Yeah.
Or the cemeteries would know the cost, and that would, allow us to do better budgeting.
I just think that it's important, that we consider that, and I think probably, just like everything we do as far as transparency and openness and open government, and perhaps maybe have a public hearing at some point or a public meeting, not a hearing, for people to come and discuss their wishes, you know? And, maybe we can do something like that at the end of summer, or maybe beginning of October when we start this process.
Before that, actually, I really think we should get a copy of what they've spent money on. Like I brought this up years ago, where they each have their own insurance. Maybe we could combine insurance with the same broker that we get the town insurance.
Mhm.
You know, they have to have workers' comp for the volunteers. Maybe we could combine that. You know, there may be savings.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure that they do, John. I mean, the amount of money that we give them, I don't think that they do have a lot. They may have a basic liability policy on a cemetery, and I'm talking completely out of school, but.
I know they have workers' comp insurance.
They do.
They do. And I asked them why, and they said,
Okay, well, because
I'm not saying, oh,
take a look at it.
take a look at their budget. You know, we do a whole job of watching the dollars and combining them. Maybe we could help them that way.
Mhm.
Also, I'm not, you know,
No, I understand, I agree.
you know, that's another avenue. And they have 3 different insurance companies for 3 different,
There's 5 cemeteries,
so do,
Potter Hall, Preston Hall, Medusa, and Trinity, and Rensselaer, that we support.
so we should have, you know, a copy of. I've asked for their budget, but that's not what they spent money on. You know what I mean? It's just, if we have a better idea what they spend money on, maybe we could help them by consolidating.
But just for consideration, the amount of money we budget each year, Roosevelt Cemetery is 4,000.
It's 1%.
The
or
Brookside
0.9%.
Personnel is 3,000, Potter Hollow is 2,400, and Trinity is 750.
And if they are no longer in business, it's gonna cost us a lot.
It's gonna cost us a lot more than that.
Yeah, so anyways, I think it's something that we have to have a discussion on. It should probably be another thing that we should look at, 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, so we have a plan, not just managing the crisis.
Okay, any other ordinance comments, please?
I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you, everyone.